T.J. Hooker returns next week at this time. Now a special presentation.
If you like comic books, then you definitely like comic art. Visit comicartfans.com to see original comic artworks and custom drawings that people have collected and posted online. Coming soon, Comic Art Fans is hosting an in-person event called the Original Art Expo that will focus on the hobby of collecting original comic art. The Original Art Expo will be held at the Doubletree by Hilton Hotel in Orlando, Florida on January 26th through the 28th, 2024. They will have over 30 exhibitors and 60 comic artists. Spend the weekend in an intimate setting with some of the best creators in the world. Purchase or commission a piece of original comic art. Visit the Comic Art and Illustration Galleries. Attend the Saturday night auction and pizza party and hang out with your fellow comic art enthusiasts. The Original Art Expo is sure to be the world's premier visual storytelling art event, so don't miss out. Go to oa-expo.com to get your tickets today and visit comicartfans.com to see what comic art collecting is all about.
Word Balloon is brought to you by the League of Word Balloon Listeners.
I was excited to get the opportunity to work on Captain America for the regular series, particularly because after a long period of trying these other looks for the character, they were finally returning him to his classic appearance, and I had let it be known that I wanted to work on classic looks of characters as much as possible. And luckily, he's one of those characters you can never completely escape his original design. And it just would happen to be that Ta-Nehisi Coates would be writing this new series, which makes it even more of something to be a spotlight put on it. And he can bring a lot of topicality and a lot of introspection of what Captain America's symbol can mean today and what it's challenged by in terms of the times we live in. And it's a perfect way to be involved with the project because I've always felt that Captain America's got a great history of being a character relevant to what was going on in our world, what was going on in American society. He's never been just this flag-waving character of, you know, like, hey, whatever America does, just go along with it because, hey, we're all about America. In a way, he was a character of contradictions. He's draped in the flag, but he's always sort of running head up against these compromises for American ideals and what we should be keeping at our heart.
Welcome back, everybody. Time again for Word Balloon, the comic book conversation show. John Suntress here. Always happy to welcome Jimmy Palmiotti back to Word Balloon. Good to see you, man.
You too, John. Me too, man. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year. I'm interested in OAX. They're a sponsor of Word Balloon, and it's an event that you and Amanda are going to be at this weekend, right?
Yeah, a couple of days. A couple of days away. We're excited because it's the first con. It's the first original comic art con in the United States, and oh my God, it's got so many guests. I mean, I'm surrounded by I have Adam Hughes on one side of me and Adam Kubert on the other. So but we got like guys like Sean Murphy and Kevin Nolan, Bob Layton, Greg Land, Dan Jurgens, J.G. Jones, Dave Johnson, Michael Golden. Garcia Lopez is.
Yeah.
Kevin Nolan. There's so many people that I am personally going to probably get online and try to get a sketch out of on there. But it's a 3-day show. It's like 2 days are pure con, right? It's like all day long. All the artists are going to be there, and then there's a chunk of art dealers. So if you're into comic book art, this is the place to go. You know, and I think CGC or CBCS or those guys are there too, in case anybody wants that stuff done. But the Friday night it's like a big get together. We're having like a whole drinks and the whole thing, and then Saturday night there's an auction. So everybody that went to the show pretty much gave a piece for the auction, and I'm going to be hosting that with Nick Barucci. So you're going to have two very Italian guys butchering the English language on Saturday night. It should be interesting. Like I said, I'm excited to any convention where there's not 8,000 movie celebrities and TV celebrities, and I'm just so bored with the cons, with the millionaires that are asking $250 for an autograph. I'm just like, it's exhausting, and there's nothing worse than sitting at these cons and having people come up to your table and go, "Oh yeah, I want to buy something, but the guy that plays Thor, I just gave him $300 for a photo," and I'm like, because he doesn't have enough money. But
Yeah.
so it's kind of nice to kind of go to a convention where the people there are insanely into the comic art that we do, and we get to celebrate it and talk about it and trade art. And I guess there's going to be a lot of trading going on, and sketches and all that kind of stuff. So we're really looking forward to it. I think Amanda took on a bunch of pre-commissions, which she just finished, that people got to pick up. And then she'll be there all weekend doing remarks and sketches and whatever. So it should give everybody a lot of fun. Should be a lot of fun. So we're really looking forward to it.
I was wondering, I know you also collect art, and not only from your contemporaries, but you get old stuff. Heritage is going to be there, selling a lot of vintage stuff and things. I was wondering if you are willing to part of any of your own personal items from your
so it's funny, right? Because Amanda has a decent amount of artwork, and I have problems parting with her artwork, which is kind of weird, but I guess the husband thing. But my own artwork, like I'm bringing a portfolio with some pages. I do have this thing that I bring. It's a box of I call it non-superhero pages. And I got like 150 of these pages that we sell them $70 a page, and they're great artists, like guys like Paul Galassi, and there's Derek Robinson, and there's a whole bunch of different artists that I've inked over the years, and we put them in this box. I usually bring them to cons. I have some more for this show, and I usually sell out of like a lot of them. So we try to make it like a price where it's not gonna break the bank. At the same time, people who are getting into the hobby and don't have a lot of money, I like to think there's something available for everybody. And there's a lot of pages in there. I bring this box. This one has a lot more stuff in it. And then Amanda has a whole portfolio of stuff that's very reasonably priced. Some of the Soul Searches work she's done, some of the Vampirella pages, like everything's priced to get people into collecting, because we feel it's really, I think it's the next best thing to collecting the comics is collecting the art, and then at this show you'll be able to like go up to the table and go up to David Finch or Dan Burden or Michael Laura Allred and say, hey, I love your art, and I'd like to buy a page from you if you can sign it. Like, to me, it's always the best part of the con is Artist Alley, and this is a con that pretty much is just Artist Alley.
Absolutely, man. No. This is a pure art. It's like a CAF. It's a comics art festival.
Yeah.
And very stripped down. Like you said, no Hollywood really going to be there unless they're
the only celebrities are comic book celebrities. That's it.
Yeah, which is great. I think that's excellent, man. God, I'm curious, especially given the year we had where Barbie was such the rage. Does Amanda have any of her Barbie pages still? I
think we have one or two in there with the bunch. I mean, people don't really ask for it, which is really weird. She gave a lot. She gave away some covers as gifts, because people's kids were into Barbie, and she said, "Here, take this."
Sure.
There's not really. We probably should have sent one to Margot at some point. We'll probably do that. Send one to her because she's obviously a fan. She's Amanda and Margot have that in common, but Harley and Barbie. So
right, absolutely, that's a good point. Definitely, man. The question's already flying in, Jimmy. Ahmed wants to know: will we ever get a Jonah Hex omnibus? Please push for it, Jimmy. It's awesome.
Yeah. So I've been spending a lot of time over the years asking them to do that, mainly because when that movie came out and failed, all the bookstores returned all the Jonah Hex trades because they thought, well, this is a dead movie. So the books we've been selling for years, now we're not going to sell them anymore. So there is no trade books of Jonah Hex in print. Like you can't go to Amazon and get a Jonah Hex trade. As a matter of fact, you go into comic shops, you really can't find them anymore. So I've been bugging them for years. I'll tell you, I've been bugging them to reprint the Power Girl book that we did. And they finally did it last April. And it actually sold like crazy for them. So I'm hoping that me bugging them about the Jonah Hex, because I would love nothing more than like an omnibus of the first 70 issues, like let's say, of the first series, whether it's one book or two book. I don't know how many pages, but my thing is, it'll probably be two books, probably 2 volumes. But there's so many great artists, from guys like Jordy Bernay to Darwin Cook, J.H. Williams. We had like the Rogues Gallery, Riso, so many people in these books. For the art alone, it needs to be collected. But I also would love for people to read the books, because a lot of people ask me, do you have any Jonah Hex books? And I'm like, I don't have any. I said, I have a set of the trades. I don't have any more single issues. I just have a set of the trades. And somebody collected a bunch for me into a hardcover. They made their own little, as a gift. But if the fans ask for it enough online, they pay attention to it. Me asking, it seems like I want it for my own personal thing, but it's nothing to do with it. Like the Power Girl one. The Power Girl one was out of print for like 3 years. And it was the most asked book for us. Said, do you have the Power Girl trade? And then I saw people paying $200-$300 for the book that was $24.99. I was like, that's a crime. Like, why do they reprint 85,000 other things, but they can't reprint something where everybody's asking for it? But they finally did with Power Girl. So I'm hoping one day Jonah Hex. Who knows?
Am I right? I saw, I'm on DC's press list, and I know coming up there's a Power Girl Uncovered, where it's literally all just the covers over the years. And I'm
okay. Well, I didn't. They don't tell us anything, so we don't know. I find it really interesting that they changed Power Girl's costume and made her skinnier, and ignored the continuity we did. And then all the alternate covers for the Power Girl comics are Power Girl,
voluptuous Power Girl, absolutely.
And I'm like, so what's not working there? I find it so weird. Either stick with the new one and do that on the cover, or go back to the old one. But I said, but it's like you look at that and then you open the book and it's a different thing. And I'm just like, I just don't understand the continuity of it all. But I hear it's a fun book. I don't read a lot of comics these days. I tend to be writing most of the time. But the covers are beautiful. I see some of the covers; they're beautiful. I don't know why they don't ask Amanda to do a couple. That's kind of weird too. I'm like, you have her right there. Ask it. But that's,
No, I'm with you, man. It's schizophrenic. Oh, here's another good girl artist, everybody. It's Stepan Sejic.
He's pretty amazing. Yeah. How do you say his first name?
I say Stepan, and Stepan, if I'm saying it wrong, I apologize. I've only met him once in New York years ago, and he always flatters me by coming on and watching you guys and women when I have you on. So it always means a lot.
He's a fantastic illustrator, great storyteller. The work is great, and I like his color work. Like I'm a fan of his work. So
yeah.
So Stefan or it's STJE. Stefan. Maybe it's silent.
Yeah, I'm assuming the J is silent, and I'm saying, like I said, I'm saying.
Anyway, keep up the good work, Stefan. It's great, man. He's really great.
If you're on Facebook or whatever, I don't have your email, and I don't want you to put it in the chat. But there, and he says Steven will do. Okay, man.
Yeah.
And he appreciates it, so that's really.
One day I'll get a cover out of him for a Kickstarter of mine.
You got to come on, man, Steven. You got to come on sometime. I would love to have you on Word Balloon. I've been a longtime fan. I really respect what you do. Oh man, good. People are asking great questions. I want to go back though. Some people saying hello. Zach is saying hello. Dave is saying hello. Jason wants us both to be at the Memphis Comic Expo.
Are they inviting us?
I don't know. Yeah, if you're an organizer, man, I'm sure Jim and I would love to come. So
I've never been. I don't think I've ever been to Memphis. So there you go.
Either, man. Great music town. I'm sure you know.
I literally can drive there. I think from Florida.
Absolutely. And Jason also says he needs some original Ash art.
It's funny, Jason. Like we have between Joe and I, we have every single page of Ash art. And I even have most, if not all, of the Umberto Ramos series that Umberto did, because he was selling it at one point. I just bought them all. You know, but one day, you know, Joe and I talk about it, like when we can figure out how to do an omnibus, how to do a collection, and then we'll let the art go, you know, because I can't tell you how many years people say, hey, if you ever sell any Ash pages, and I'm just like, I think we need to have the character come out again. It's been a long time, so
Yeah.
You
Good
know.
Lord.
But you know, Joe and I always talk about it, and we're always trying to, like, you know, we both say, when do we have time? Like, you know, where is? Plus, you got to understand with those pages. When we did the books, they were not film. It was film. I'm sorry, it was film. It wasn't digital. So they had film of those pages. Now we have the originals, but we don't have film of the pages. They lost it. The printer lost all the.
Wow.
Right. So it's a good thing we have all the original art, because it can always be scanned and recolored. Or how people do is they scan the comic and then look it up. But I'm like a quality guy, so
Yeah.
part of me doesn't like that so much because it looks kind of crappy. But a black and white artist edition would be pretty wild, and you know,
Yes.
it's a good thing. You know, if I had 6 assistants and all that kind of stuff, but it's just me, and on a good day, I have my buddy Patrick when he's not working. But it is a monster job, because the Ash stuff is a lot of pages. It's a lot of work.
I understand. Well, you know, here's hoping, because truly, I think a lot of us discovered a lot of your guys' early stuff. You, Remender, Bendis, even, you know, prior to your stuff you guys did before going to Marvel and stuff. And yeah, it's like, you know, I've only, over the years, I've only seen, I think, sketches of Ash and things, and so yeah, I've never seen any of the physical.
Well, I see Walt Simonson's champion. Scan the page now rather than wait and put them on stuff. You know what, Walt, you're 100% right. I got to get somebody over here and get a good scanner and do all the pages that I got and Joe has. It's a, you know, it would be a good omnibus. I'm one of those giant size art books. I don't know if anybody buy it, but I think it would be pretty cool to have, you know. But I love Walt Simonson, by the way. Can we talk about Walt for a minute or two?
I would love that. Congratulations on the move, Walt. I hope you and Louise are, you know, I'm sure you guys are unpacking and stuff. But yeah,
so Walt is the case. Walt is the case of loving someone's art and then meeting them, and they're just as great and just as, you know, they're just as people. They're just like wonderful. Walt and Louise, you know, both of them. They're both like examples of how people should act with other people. You know, they set a precedent for, I think, how people should treat other people. And Amanda and I try to model ourselves after that as well. We try to be like respectful for everybody, and we get excited for everybody's work. And Walt's like the original. You know, for me, he's like one of the many pros I met that actually lived up to the art. And again, my first introduction to Walt was the Alien. The movie adaptation. So much so that I actually redrew some of the pages he drew, like to figure out how he was drawing. And I, you know, like when you're a kid, you try to dissect things. I remember trying to redraw Stranko pages and Walt Simonson pages and Fazetta pages, and realizing that I am none of those people. So I better start doing something else for a living. Because initially I wanted to just draw comics. I didn't want to ink them. I didn't want to write them. I just wanted to draw them. And I've only done a couple of comics in my time, and you know, and realized how hard the job is and how painstakingly insane it is, and then how horribly paid everybody is. You know, and I always said, you know, drawing comics is like you got to either be crazy or absolutely love it. And most of the artists I know, a little bit of both. They're half crazy and half so super talented. You know, it's just I think it's why OAX for me is like really exciting, because I'm going to get to kind of like gush over a lot of artists that I haven't seen in a while, or I have to remind them that I'm still a huge fan of theirs, including my friends, including guys I see all the time. But it's nice to stop and remind them that I simply adore their artwork. I'm a comic book fan and a comic art fan before I am a professional.
Yeah.
And I think people realize that if they hang out with me for a while, is that my love for it. It's like my room is surrounded. I have piles of artwork and comics everywhere I look, and I make it nice and clean. I have this little wall. Everything's clean around me. But if I turn my camera around, it looks like a comic book dump. I can actually do a little bit. I can do a little bit. It's just madness.
Yeah.
But I managed to clean this frame up, so it's not so bad.
No, I understand. Why do you think I'm blurring my background? I'm Oscar Madison, man.
Yeah.
100%. But no, I'm glad. And Walter says thank you. They're working on obviously unpacking, but that's great.
He's just a wonderful man. I love him.
And just like Zach, and I was going to echo what you said too, man. Everyone says, a lot of creators, that Walter's the kind of person to aspire to be.
I can tell a story quick and embarrass him a little bit, but
sure,
in the nicest way. So Walt doesn't really sell a lot of his artwork, right? Walt keeps, and then once in a while he sketches. I see Gene Sirocco and where Greg Hildebrandt, where the booth is, you'll see like a stack of sketches by Walt that are amazing. These pencil sketches, and people grab them up like sort of like sweet corn at the end of August. People just go in there and grab them all and buy them. And Walt did a cover for me on Jonah Hex years ago, and it's a beautiful cover. It's actually upstairs. I have it upstairs in the wall. And I just loved it. You know what I mean? It was so exciting. I have a Walt Simonson Jonah Hex cover on my comic that I wrote. Like what lottery did I win? Well, the lottery kept coming because one day a package shows up at my door, and there's the original cover from Walt. And he knew I loved the cover, and it's just, like I said, one of those things that it's like, how did I get so lucky in this life that I have such wonderful people, such giving people around me? What did I do? And and of course, it's like, to me, it's like, you'll have to pull that from my dead fingers. That thing is never leaving my home, and that's all there is to it. And when I see people and I don't want to name names, when I see people selling artwork that were given as gifts, it breaks my heart. And but that's not something that's going to happen. I will say, if I'm dead, somebody else will probably sell it. So I'm sorry about that.
That's okay.
Right.
But
but while I'm here, I get to look at it and get to see the line weight. And the thing with Walt is it's like that same thing Kirby had, where is it 100% accurate anatomy, blah blah blah. They know how to do that. They know how to do it. What they did is they created this dynamic style that goes beyond what normal things look like, and create this style that's this hyperkinetic, energized stuff. And then when Walt used to do Manhunter with all the little panels and all the, he just he did stuff to the medium that he doesn't even understand, left such a big impression in so many different people.
Yes.
And so anyway, that's enough about Walt. His head is probably so big now he can't get back into the other room. But Amanda and I adore him and his wife, and we think that we love when they're on the doing a con that we're at, because we know we're going to get a chance to hang out and talk with them for a little while. So
absolutely, man. No, it was great seeing all four of you last summer at Terrificon in Connecticut. Yeah, absolutely, man.
Yeah.
So and mentioning Jonah Hex, I've told you before, it was so great. I mean, I loved the continuing stories that you and Justin did in the second waves, but that first run, like you said, of the 70 or whatever it was, they were just great one and dones, or even two stories in one issue.
Yeah, Justin is, Justin's a brilliant writer. I mean, Justin Gray, people don't even realize how, people who follow his work know, right? But he's such a brilliant writer, such a genre writer. and we had so much fun doing it. Like, I think it shows in the books. Like we just had a blast doing those books, and we had so much freedom. Like editorially, they left us alone, and they let me hire anybody I wanted for the books, And I always say sometimes you got to just trust the people doing the books, trust the names that earned it their whole life, trust them and let them go. It's when I hire artists to do covers for my books, I never tell them what to do. I just send them the inside of the book and say, look, this is what's going on. Come up with whatever you want, unless they want art direction. And I do give art direction when somebody says, hey, can you just give me a where it's going, or at least give me an idea of what you want?
Sure.
But my thing is, I've learned that even if you give them a little art direction, but let them go crazy, I think the artists, when they're in a good zone, you get some amazing work. And when you try to hyper control them, it's not very good. It's not going to be good. I'll tell you what, like Todd McFarlane, his guy Thomas, and those guys, they're letting me on Gunslinger. See, I have Gunslinger. This is not the book. This is just my trade I got. I just
hold on, zooming in. Boom.
Yeah, it's just a trade. I bought the trade collecting the first bunch of issues.
Okay.
Because I like to. I usually have the digital ones, but I like to have the comic in front of me. But Todd and they're letting me go crazy on the book, and I'm laughing because it is just, Patrick is drawing the hell out of it, and I'm laughing because I'm like, nobody's gonna see this book coming in a weird way, because it's really grounded, Spawn. It's like real world 1880s. I mean 1860 to 1880s, and in that realm of, that's the years that stuff is going on, and it's so grounded and it's so violent.
Great.
And I'm having a blast, but I got hired by guys that said, we know you know what you're doing, so just write it. And the funny thing Todd said to me, he says, we want you to stay on for a while. Have you ever done a really long run on a book? And I started laughing. I said, I think I wrote like 120 something Jonah Hexes in a row. I said, I think I did 114 Harleys in a row. And he looked at me, he's like, you're kidding. I'm like, no. And he goes, oh, okay, you're in.
Yeah.
But,
well, and also, Jim, your creator-owned stuff. You've always pushed the limits in a great way. I don't mean that in any bad way.
Right.
Marvel, but your own Sex and Violence and all. Yeah. A lot of what you've been doing through Kickstarter and everything. I've always appreciated it, and I want R-rated comics. I'm an adult. I'm over 50 years old. It's okay.
Yeah, I'm an adult. I like sex. I like sex in my comics. I like violence. I'm not the guy you hire to write Spider-Man, let's say. It doesn't mean I can't. I've written them, but I'm not the first choice, especially if you're trying to aim it at younger people. I will tell you, I'm like, I turn down books all the time because it's like, I'm the wrong guy. There's a better artist, there's a better writer than it for me. I said, even with Harley Quinn, I said, if you're going to have us do it, you have to let me do it the way I see Harley Quinn. Same with Power Girl. Dan DiDio used to call us a Jamanda universe, which anything we did, we kind of made it, we kind of made it our universe.
Yeah, absolutely.
We ignored the crossovers because we're like, we don't want to do crossovers. I said, I'm a comic buyer and I don't like crossovers. When I was a kid, I didn't mind like, okay, this one's going to cross over with that one, or there's like I have to buy the 4 books, but now it's like 40 books, right? And then I get a story, and by the end of it, I'm like, I don't even know what this was about, and maybe I'll just buy the trade later on. I'm not a big one for crossovers because I don't like when my steady book is interrupted with some other people's business.
Yeah, no, absolutely, man. Here, first of all, Steven says your Harley was the first time he drew the character professionally, and if only it was a character on his face when he read the script. And Zach agrees. He's like, it's great to hear, man. Having created stand-up book for a long run, that seems so infrequent in today's market.
I think that's the secret. I think that's the secret to getting these, like Marvel and DC, back on in some way, is to keep teams on. But you got to understand, as a freelancer, to stay on a book for a while, you have to have, first off, you have to be happy. Okay, right? So you have to make that artist happy and the writer happy. So you got to take care of them, right? And you got to treat them like gold, because they are artists and they are half crazy. All artists are half crazy, by the way. So just get it through your head. We're all a little nutty. But you have to let us, you have to let us do our thing. And you have to give us some freedom to create. And if you're going to try to control us, that's why people lead books. Or what happens is people go, I'll do this Batman arc and then I'll be famous. And I'm like, well, okay. But, when you have 17 Batman books coming out a month, it's hard to be, so there's a lot of things going on in comics. I just figure again, I have my office is in the comic shop. So I see everything going on. I see what they're buying. I see how the alternate covers are now not doing as well as they did. And they're not, these comics having 5 or 6 covers for every single issue. Remember when it used to be just the number one?
Yes.
Or maybe 2 covers. One you can order the other one. But the cover game is now, it's not doing great, and basically the alternate cover game came from smaller creators trying to up their numbers, like myself when I do my Kickstarters. So what's interesting there is how things are changing pretty quick in comics. I see Lane Morissette stop by. It's another
Absolutely.
Yeah, we've done a couple of books together. He's worked on Harley. He's worked on the couple of books. He's the Gang of Harley's book. He's an amazing artist, great friend. He lives over the other side of the pond, as they say, near Amsterdam. But he's a fantastic artist. It's nice to see him, buddy.
I wonder which cover JT is talking about, but he says not to be too repetitive, but you were involved with the best damn cover ever.
Huh? What cover you think he's talking about?
I don't know. I mean, I always love Truly, not being nice, man. Lane says you always had a ball working with you. Our buddy Hillary Barta is watching us. Very cool.
Hillary, talk about a talented guy. I can wax poetic about Hillary. Hillary's got the brushwork of Will Eisner in his brain. Okay, he not only a fantastic artist, but he's got like his inking is phenomenal, and the guy can just draw his ass off. He's just such a talented guy that really can switch styles. And yeah, I'm a huge fan of Hillary. I think he's like one of those underappreciated people. I mean, he calls himself a surly hack. Is that what that is?
Absolutely, that is what he calls himself.
He needs to. If I had any advice to give you, I'd say start treating yourself a little better. Call yourself a brilliant artist, like I do. And,
I look forward to it's Tuesday, and he always does Screwy Tuesday, where he does like his version of now I'm blanking what they call it, lowbrow humor. Yeah. And they're the crazy monsters that he does and everything. Yeah,
he's very humble. He's like Amanda. They don't really, they do what they do, but they don't understand how influential their work is. And he's somebody that I still feel like he can do anything, and he should be working 24/7. I don't get these editors, man. I don't get some of the editors sometimes. I know they hire their friends and all that stuff, but honestly, he's got the chops, man. It's like taking from a guy that used to ink. That guy's got the chops.
And I completely agree with you. I remember in an earlier interview that we did, you told me that you break in. A lot of times DC would have you break in some younger editors and kind of help them learn the editing thing and what they should be asking artists and whatever, guiding them. Would you ever find yourself recommending some of the old guard like Hill that you're more aware of than some of the younger?
I think that's what my run on Jonah Hex was. I was grabbing guys that haven't worked for. I think Giordano did it. I grabbed the whole range of people that I thought just could be great, like on the book, and it especially helped when they came up to me and said I'd love to draw an issue with Jonah Hex, because I always ended that conversation with, okay, what when can I give you the script? Like, when are you available? With Dick Giordano, it was like, he was sick. He had cancer and he was sick, and his I don't know if his wife or lady friend, I don't know, is but his right hand gal, I don't know. There's probably a 50s explanation for it. But she called me and said he always wanted to do a full issue with Jonah Hex, and
Wow.
Justin and I wrote that thing overnight and sent it to him, and he nailed it. He not only nailed it, it came out, and he was able to do a signing right before he passed away. But when you hear something like that, like I've always wanted to do, I was like, of course, Dick Giordano. What that guy, him and Neil Adams were like a dream team. He's one of the best inkers over Neil ever, besides Neil, when Neil inked himself too. But Dick was like a guy, and I loved listening to him. The guy was just another force of nature. I have some of his artwork. I was lucky in my lifetime. I got to meet and hang out with Dick, and then actually have him work on something I did. It was really weird because we wrote the book about a death of a character, and we gave it to him, which was really strange for us to do, knowing his condition at the time.
Yeah.
But there was also some kind of closure in there as well, which is really, if you read the book, you'll see what we're trying to say on some weird level to him. But I've been very lucky with being paired with some amazing people. That's for sure.
Your good friend Darwin Cook. My great regret is that I never had him on for a long word balloon. And further, this is when I was doing stuff for Newsarama.
Yeah.
It was at one of the first New York shows, and I got him up in the skybox, and we talked about your issue, in the snowstorm and everything. Great Jonah Hex issue. And unfortunately, I'm like, so where's that interview? They're like, oh yeah, we kind of blew the recording. I'm like, oh. And I saw Darwin so many times afterwards, and
Yeah.
It's like, yeah, we'll do it, John, we'll do it. And unfortunately, it never happened. But my God, again, I mourn his loss when people like yourself remind me, and it's time for a memorial and stuff. And just a great guy, and an amazing artist. He reminds me, or I should say, someone current that reminds me of Darwin. And I don't know if you've seen this as well. The French artist Ilse Chartier has the real Darwin quality.
She's like a lot of her stuff is very modeled after Darwin and animation in general. And she met Darwin, so that makes sense,
That's great.
Yeah, they knew each other. We all knew each other. So, and I know her pretty well, and she's a wonderful gal. And she definitely is like, a lighter version of Darwin, like because Darwin could pull off a lot of intricate stuff too. Like Darwin was, his art was evolving, right? Because he went through like his animation phase and then jumped into his Alex Toth phase. And then it started becoming just Darwin work. It just started looking like Darwin. I miss him all the time. I mean, he was the guy that would, every morning would come with coffees for Amanda and him in the morning, and he'd show up on the deck of my house. So, he used to tell me that his dad died at 52, and he's going to die at 52, and he did.
Wow.
So, when I was saying earlier about calling yourself a hack or making, don't do that too much, because I think there's some jinxing in there. We could have used another 20, 30 years of Darwin books.
Oh yeah.
We were going to work on a couple of things together. We were talking about, Spectre was one we pitched that they said no to. But over time we liked working. He was one of those guys that he's one of the few people when I was writing, because when I started writing, writers didn't like that I was writing, because they were like, well, you're an artist, you should, we don't need another writer, right? And then so I never got much love from writers, and Darwin was one of the few artists that not only read everything I did, but he'd comment about it, and he would come in and grab a script I had and say, I'm drawing this. And that's how the first Jonah Hex came. And actually, when he did the last issue of Jonah Hex, he insisted that he's drawing that. And he grabbed the script and did that. And then issue 50, me and Justin were telling him what we're doing. And he goes, oh, I want to do that one too. Okay. So, but, he's one of those guys, that he liked to collaborate. And he's done how many covers for me? He was my go-to guy Amanda and him would, anything I had, they would do the cover for. I go, Darwin, I need something I did called The Last Resort. I need some zombie stuff. He's like, done. Oh, I did a book, G.I. Zombie. Can you do covers for it? Done. Like, he never said no. Love him.
Thank you, Don. That's nice. And obviously that's more Jimmy than me. But yeah, this is what a comic book masterclass sounds like. Absolutely, man. And I like Greg's question here. Who's the artist that got away on Jonah Hex? The one scheduled that never lined up to draw the book.
Okay, so I had a story. I had Jeff Darrow came to me in San Diego and said, I want to draw an issue with Jonah Hex. And I'm like, okay. So I wrote an issue. Justin and I wrote an issue with him in mind. We sent him the script, and he read it. He goes, it's great, but it seems like you wrote it for me. And I'm like, we did write it for you. And it was about these guys trying to transport a giant octopus to a circus. So he goes, no, I want something with just two guys in the street, the Western with the guns, the horses. And I'm like, okay. So we gave that story to Eduardo Riso, who killed on it. It was that his issue, he killed on it. And then we wrote another story for Jeff, and Jeff's like, that's more like it. That's perfect. And then he got to me a week or two later and said, my DC rate kind of sucks, so I'm not going to do this.
Oh,
Now,
my God.
You have to understand, I adore the man, so there's nothing he can do to get me pissed off. But I was like, I can't blame him if he doesn't think it's enough money. I was like ready to pay him out of my own pocket, but I was like, no, I'm not going to do that. If he maybe he doesn't really want to do it,
Sure.
So that was the one that got away, because I almost had him twice.
Hey, maybe that's something you guys can retool into a, not make him Jonah and retool it into a Kickstarter Western.
I would give anything to do a Western with Jeff. It would probably be a sci-fi Western though. I'd probably have it, something. But like I said, he writes his own stuff now, and I don't blame him.
Oh yeah, that's how I bonded with him. Was talking about 50s and 60s TV Westerns like Gunsmoke and Have Gun Will Travel and things like that.
Yeah.
And I don't know if you know my buddy Doug Klauba, great Southside Chicago artist, and he's the one who introduced me to Jeff. And it was really early on in Word Balloon. And I mentioned my love for not only the TV Westerns, but the radio Westerns.
Right.
And he perked up right away. He's like, oh my God, those Gunsmoke radio shows. It's like somebody opened a microphone in 1880 and you're hearing a documentary because they sounded
it's a funny thing about writing Westerns because I write them like the language of the day. And then I realize before I send it out, I have to go in and modernize it a little bit because it's a little too stale, or it's a little too, it's funny because you have to really, I'm finding even with the Hunters, I had to kind of like bring up the language a little bit more modern in it because I'm writing the Gunslinger series, and I'm realizing, okay, I can't go full on hardcore what every term meant in that year. I'm trying to, but part of that is to write it in a way that the rest of the sentence is defining what it is, because there's a lot of language that doesn't translate to what people reading now. And it's always a thing for me that I'm always like battling, like, should I just, now I could say Huckleberry because it was in a movie and everything, but there are terms where I say it and it's like, unless I have it in the context of the story, it sounds like the guy's losing his mind. So it's an interesting thing writing historic comics set in history. And I'm always on the board. I think in the Hunters, I used one contemporary word towards the end of the story, and somebody gave me a little crap about it. And I said, look, it works for the story. It's not going to take you out of it's not that extreme. A lot of times I look like, where did this expression start? And then I look it up and it says, oh, that's 1903. And I'm like, why couldn't it be 30 years earlier?
No, I hear you, man. Absolutely. Are there Western writers like Louis L'Amour, like Zane Grey, that you were kind of modeling your style?
Yeah, I was actually modeling a lot of the stuff after. There's a book of Civil War letters that people wrote back to their family.
Sure.
I was modeling it after the language of the soldiers. But it's so poetic, and so like Deadwood did like this little dance about it, and it was a little distracting at times in Deadwood for me. You know, that the language was so colorful coming from these people that they couldn't form a sentence, and so it was a little confusing to me at times. But that's mostly where, like, Louis L'Amour, all these guys that write the novels, you're writing a novel, so you can do a lot more of that because you can spend a whole page describing the patio or a porch.
Yes.
But I have to depend on an artist to kind of just draw it. Our
Sure.
brain in the comic, our brain just has to go. You have the word balloon here. There's a little arrow to the guy's head, and that's pretty much how people. Steve Dillon said this. People read comics. They read the words that point to the head. So make sure you draw that head really well. You know, and then everything else is chicken fat after that. It's just an interesting thing, you know.
Did you ever get a chance to talk to Mobius about Westerns? Lieutenant Blueberry and the
Not
like?
about Westerns. I gushed to him maybe 3 times how much I love his work. I actually bought a book. I was just looking at it the other day. I bought a book from him. Hang on, it's right here. Hang on one second.
Sure, absolutely. I love this. This is why I have people on, is to talk about their favorite artists and stuff. Absolutely.
So he was selling these books. They're handmade books.
Wow.
And they were I think it was $100 for this little. It's a leather. I don't know if you can see it. It's not.
Well, yeah. I mean, it's just a leather cover. There's no illustration on it, I'm assuming.
And then there's, he signs the bottom.
Wow.
There was 100 issues. There's 100 of them made, and it was hand stitched, right? And then in the back, when you see him, I have a couple of these books. And in the back, when you see him, every time you see him at a show, he'll draw a little picture in it for you.
Wow, that's great.
So there's an original. I don't know if you can see it. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, it's an original piece of art in every. So every time you saw him, you had to bring the book in, and get another piece on it, and
wow,
yeah,
that's amazing.
Every time I see him, I would always be gushing about him. His English not that great, and but I would just tell him how much I love. It's like Milo Manara. I would just sit there and wax poetic on how much their work influenced me, and they don't know who the hell I am, which makes it even funnier. And I tell them, I do comics,
sure,
in the States, and they're like, oh, okay, But I'm happy I got to meet him 3 times, and we bought a piece of artwork for him that we gave to Amanda's mom, so she has it hanging up. And then, that's Mobius. And Manara, I met him a couple of times. I could never afford the art.
Yeah.
But I loved him. I now I have some originals all the time. But when I met him, it was like, I couldn't afford what he had on the table. I was just starting in comics, and 6,000 a page was a little out of my zone.
Gary Gianni did a cover of a collection of Robert Howard boxing stories. And I wrote for Ring Magazine and Boxing Illustrated in the 90s and the early 2000s. And he knew that. And he drew, it's bigger than a remark, but on the inside cover, he drew a little boxing sketch for me. And I love it. It's fantastic.
Gary is a classically trained artist, and has a line, his line work is like, it's like the 1920s, 1930s came alive. Okay. I have 2 beautiful shadow pages.
Wow, that's great.
From Gary. With submarines on them and everything. And they're so beautiful. I bought them when I met him like 25 years ago or 20 years ago.
Yeah.
I have a lot of his books, his he did illustrations for these hardcovers. And I have a couple of sets of those with drawings in them, because every time I see him, I would have him do a drawing. He's another guy that, I'd love to work with, but I could never afford him. And I feel like these guys need to get paid a lot of money, because they're just brilliant artists. And I don't think he'd want to work with me anyway, but I'm a huge fan of his. So,
Those Jim Flesk adaptations that he did over the years.
Yeah.
Always a play,
I have all of them.
That's great. That's great, man. No, I always love that corner of San Diego where it's him and Mark Schultz next to each other with their booths and stuff. And
and talk about another guy, Mark Schultz. Oh my God. I mean, there's like Frank Frazetta died, and his spirit went into Mark, and Mark, my only problem with Mark is I want more artwork. I want to see him do more books.
I hear you. No, I so hear you.
Both of them. Somebody should give them $1 million to just stay at home and draw comics, do whatever they want to do. Like we need an art patron. We need that person that has millions and millions of dollars and just takes these artists and says, draw whatever you want. I'm going to publish it at the end of the year. So.
Absolutely. No, I hear it. Jimmy, I'm so sorry I missed your Humble Bumble to promote. And
that's okay. We raised over $7,000 for the World Wildlife Foundation, so I'm super, super stoked about that. And we sold over 3,000 bundles. Super happy about that. I look at it as 3,000 people who may have never read some of my stuff are going to get it or going to be able to share it on their illegal download site. So whatever happens with it, it's going to happen. But it was for a good cause, and as all my charity work goes to animals, cats, dogs, everything. I figure people could take care of themselves, but we got to look out for those little guys.
No, it's great that you did it. Are we to expect some cool creator-owned stuff? I'm glad you're doing Gunslinger, but are there other? Are you?
Yeah, my next Kickstarter is it's actually a set of 3 comics. And it's called Fantasima, and it's sort of, I want to say it's a female type Tarzan story, but not really.
Okay.
It's about a brother and sister who get separated when they're very young, and then things happen in their life, and the brother is kind of a mess later on in life and discovers that his sister may be still alive. And it's his journey to find his sister, and it's a little Tarzan-y. It's a little tiny bit preachy because I always have some politics in there. It's not. It's pretty much about. I deal with the fact that deforestation a little bit is part of the story, but no, I don't beat you over the head with it. It's the backdrop of what drives the characters at one point. But it's a thing I've been working on for 4 years. And we'll have more to say about it when we're closer to the. I can tell you about the art and everything. But that's the next one. I'm not going to do it till mid-February. It looks like I want to make sure the book is completely done, and I'm waiting on covers from people. And I like to have my campaign ready, like super, like we did the Hunters and we delivered the books within a month and a half. That to me, literally, when I finished with the Kickstarter, we went to the printer, and the printer, because I'm an idiot, I have to have everything spot varnished and raised up. So it's like it takes a while to print my books. But he did get it within a month, and Patrick and I got it out in 2 weeks. We got all the packages out, and everybody who ordered it got it.
Jimmy, honestly, man, I've said this to you many, many times. You're like the Kickstarter guru. You really have it down to a science, and also. It's a lot of work. I mean, I know it's a lot of work.
I pack those boxes up with Patrick. We sit there and bag them and board them, put the certificates in. I like doing it because I see every name of everybody that backed my stuff, and I feel like I owe these people, big time for supporting all my craziness.
Yeah.
So I have a lot of pride when I'm packing their stuff up. I'm really. You'll notice my stuff comes over taped. I tape up all the sides. But
that's good.
I only do like 2 or 3 a year, right? So I figured this is my chance to give something to somebody that backed me, and give them the best experience they can. I have to, people throw stories. I never got my Kickstarter from this guy, or I got screwed out of that guy. And I always tell them, I said, look, I did 22, 23. I'd never not delivered. And every single person has gotten their package. And no one's had an issue. Me and Patrick answer every email. I make sure there were guys that were difficult. But in the end, I did everything I could to make sure they got the books, and everyone was happy. I take it personal because I feel like they're paying a little extra, but at the same time, I'm trying to give them a little bit more. But I feel like comics are treated kind of crappy. We have both companies, DC and Marvel, use interior stock for cover stock. DC just switched over. And I feel like it's $5, but it's sort of like I get in the mail, I get these pamphlets for local businesses that are the same paper. Like, and I'm just like, I feel like the art needs to be treated with more respect. I think the printing needs to be better. We need a cover stock. We need spot varnish. We need to treat these as things we're going to keep and not a disposable culture. And I think that's the thing people now have to understand, that it's not disposable culture. It's not garbage. This is as important to me as TV and movies and music are. And I love them. And I love them all, by the way. I consume them all. But there's no reason why our stuff should look like crap or be treated like crap. It's an art form. There are artists doing comics that honestly should be in galleries and should be in, their storytelling skills are insane. These are some of the most talented people. Go to OAX and you'll see them all. But little plug. But no, I seriously think they deserve to be treated better. And if the paper's expensive and if the printing's expensive, it shows in the price I put on it. I don't charge $3 for those books. They're not cheap. But I've never had a person open up my stuff and say, this book feels flimsy, or I'm just going to throw it in a pile with some. A buddy of mine said, when I get your books, I kind of keep them on a special rack because they're a little better than the other books. And I said, yeah, it's a difference between it is packaging, but I also want to treat the artwork with respect. And, that's part of the spot varnish and the raised type and all that kind of stuff. I just feel like the book is, if I'm only going to do 2, 3, 4 a year, whatever, I feel like it has to be an event and worthy, and not everybody agrees with me, and I'm okay with that. I'm a guy that pays a little more for something better in every aspect of my life,
I'm sorry. Please finish your thought if you had a little more.
That's it.
All right. Well, I was going to ask, at your website, Paper Films,
yeah.
I would imagine, do you still have a back catalog for people who missed the Kickstarter?
Yeah, I do. So all the books are available digitally, right? And then we had some issues and certain things. I don't have a ton of the Kickstarters, and it's, I don't overprint them, because if I promise it's a certain run, it is actually that run. So I don't have a lot. Like, I had more people tell me, do you know that first Adam Hughes cover on Pop Kill? Do you have any more of those? You must be sitting on 100 of them. And I'm like, I don't have them. I sold out. Amanda's thing sold out. What I do is I overprint 10% and in case we have things that get damaged, which we do, some of the books get thrown on people's lawns during a snowstorm. And,
sure.
And then anything we have left, we usually bring to a con and we'll put out. It'll be more money than anybody from the Kickstarter paid, but they have a chance to get it. But there's a secondary market for my books on eBay, but I'd rather people buy it from me first.
Sure. Yeah. Well, and also I'm glad that you make them available digitally as well. So once you put out, the run.
Yeah, we don't, look, I know the post service, it's expensive, and but the difference with the Kickstarter is, right, you pay for the book, you know exactly where your money's going. It's not going to some executive. It's not going to a guy that's running $1 billion corporation. And I think, look, this guy's, okay, it's exactly what I'm saying. Yeah, you pay. Good one, Jasper. Yeah, it's pretty much, it goes right to us. And we overturn, we're not living large, folks. You see me at the shows. We're down to earth, and the money, we roll it over into other things. We just roll it into other projects, and I pay everyone that works on my Kickstarters. I ask them what they want per page. I never say, this is all I can pay you. I said, what do you want to get paid? And that's what I pay them. That's
outstanding. Okay, this is a great question from Greg.
Okay.
Has anyone ever approached you about creating a dramatized movie or TV show about Marvel's bankruptcy and Marvel Knights? Such a cool time juxtaposed against the billion-dollar Marvel of today. Absolutely.
I never had anybody approach me to. It would be an interesting story. I'd have to write it with Joe Quesada. We'd have to write it together.
Of course.
But no, I mean, it was an interesting time for us, right? Because they were in Chapter 11, and we were guys doing event comics, and all of a sudden they gave us the penthouse of the building. And,
literally.
and we had Amanda's cousin come in and paint the rooms different colors, every different color. So it was like, and we brought in a big TV and everything. So it looked like MTV up there. It was crazy. It was a crazy time, but but we were trying to prove that we could do better by their characters. So we had this young brain that we're going to show Marvel how to make their comics, and we're going to get the right creators on the right characters. Meaning we're not going to just hire a guy for name. We're going to get the people that have been their whole life waiting to do something. That's why Kevin Smith wound up on Daredevil, because all he wanted to do was write Daredevil. He told us a couple of times we helped him with his films. And when the time came, we made it available to him. So, it's simple thinking. But what happens is people who get into editor jobs or editor-in-chief jobs, they tend to toe the line for the money people and not the creators. And unfortunately, that's been happening for the past 20 years. We don't have a lot of Neil Adams out there fighting for everything.
I had Priest on last month, and again, there's a guy that you guys gave the opportunity to do Black Panther and everything,
Sure.
And that was just outstanding. So I hear what you're saying, and I always invariably when you and I talk or when Joe and I talk, I do love talking Marvel Knights because that was really a special time. Jim, it brought me back to comics. It really did. It was Kevin doing Daredevil, where I'm like, well, that's cool. And I kept hearing from friends, it's like, oh no, it's just like, it's very evocative of Frank Miller's run. And I'm like, well, that's the best run. I'm like, sure.
Yeah, we were Frank Miller fans. So obviously art wise and story wise, and obviously Kevin is and still is. And, but even like all the other books, it's like, we looked at the guys that really wanted, and they had pitches. They pitched us and we messed with the pitches. We said, okay, that's good, but can you change that? Sure. We wanted to ground those 4 books in reality. And that's what Marvel Knights was. It was like, if it's real world, like real world, this is how Black Panther would function, and this is what Wakanda would look like. And this is what, and then even with Garth and Steve on Punisher, like this is Frank, he's a guy named Frank Castle. Frank Castle is the Punisher. I don't care how many times they change it, it's Frank Castle. And it's a very basic story. The Punisher, Welcome Back Frank was a very basic story. But it was the right story at the right time because, again, when we came in, they were canceling the Punisher and they were canceling Daredevil. Daredevil was ending and Punisher was ending. And when they told us that, we said, well, we'll take those 2 characters. Those are 2 of the characters we wanted. And then Joe and I have a love of the old Fantastic Four, so Black Panther and the Humans, right? Made sense.
Yes.
And we knew, right? So we're looking at Ghost Rider. I'm sorry, at Black Panther. And Joe's like, I want to hire Jim Owsley or Christopher Priest, whatever you want to call him this week. And and he said, because he was my editor. And I said, great. And I said, but I want to use my buddy from high school to draw it. And that's Mark Texera. And Mark came in and did that drawing that you see for the #1 cover. And we were like, yeah, that's it.
Yeah, absolutely, man.
And that movie would not exist without those guys doing that book. That movie would not exist. I was bummed because the first Black Panther movie didn't give me a thank you. The Daredevil series, I didn't have a thank you. The Punisher series, I didn't have a thank you. Even the Punisher movie that they modeled after Welcome Back Frank, nothing. Marvel's done right. They've changed that. They're putting me thank yous. But there was a lot of years where I was like, where's my name?
Well, that's somebody asked earlier, Jim. Then they made the declarative statement that you should be president of DC or Marvel, and it's like you had that opportunity. Am I right, or did they just go to Joe to be editor?
No, Joe wanted that job.
Okay,
so Joe went after that job and got it. I've been offered jobs like that afterwards, but I've never taken them on. Honestly, they might think I'd be good for the job, but what would happen in my first year for both, if it was Marvel or DC, is I would up everybody's rates. I would lower the numbers of books so the royalties can come in better, and I would quadruple the amount of royalties because on a comic book, creators only get 5%, and they split on 5%.
Wow!
Of the comic. And it has to hit 60,000 copies sold first. So think about this. 90% of the comics you see, those people don't make royalties on.
Absolutely.
So
wow.
I would have been an editor-in-chief that would have been fighting for the artists all the time. And obviously they haven't had that. You know, they didn't want that. But if I was in that job, I would right away start that, and I would also do a 401k for anybody on a book over a year. So they have to give a commitment. I would create a 401k program, and I would figure out a way for medical coverage for the people that are working for a while on the company. I need the trick to comics and longevity is to give them security in their job. So they want to stay on the book. They want to stay on it long. And they feel like they invested in the right thing in their life to do it. And when you don't have those things, it's why you see creators jump around like here and there and there. It's because the security is not really there for them. So they have to chase covered gigs. They have to chase changing books, miniseries. They don't stay on for long. And, you know, they pay a lot of the creators. Sure, there's the top guys that make big money, but most of the people don't. Most of the people have to hustle. I can't not work for a couple of weeks unless I plan a year in advance, right? And I don't have a 401k. I have to pay into my own everything. And my medical coverage is, for Amanda and I, it's almost $4,000 a month.
Wow.
We pay for medical coverage. So how many comics do I have to do to get the $4,000, right? And then there's home and there's all the other things, right?
Of course.
It's a lot of it's tough. And even my Kickstarters, I have to hustle on them, right? Because when the math is done, I'm not making as much. I'm not making, when it hits 70,000, I'm not making 70,000. Like that thing, I had to pay people. You know, by the time we're done, it's like, okay, that's good. I got to do another one now because I got to pay for the other book, and you know. So it's interesting. So if I was to ever take one of those jobs, the first thing I would do is walk in and say, here's my plan for job security for the people that perform for us, because we're going to take care of them. And then when they get to the point where they can't draw anymore, we'll have a 401k set up for them. We won't have to depend on strangers or YouTube. People going to YouTube and begging for GoFundMe or you know,
Patreon. You know, I use Patreon. You know,
yeah, it's ridiculous. The profit being made. Take some of the film money, take a little bit, and move it over to that side of the table. Look, I know it sounds easy, right? But it's work. But my thing is, if I was in those jobs, I would make it my first job, because I feel I already know how people, you know, function, and how artists, when they have security, they actually do better work, and when they enjoy their job. When they're worrying about things, you see the stress in their work. I do. I see it.
I hear you, man. No. You're speaking my language. Jasper, you're saying really nice stuff, and I appreciate that. I'm trying to find. He wants me to bring Billy Tucci on. I would love to talk to the Tucci. It's been a while.
Yeah,
I always say hi to him.
Billy.
Of course, absolutely, man. All New York guys, no question. Jasper wants to know what your prized possession in your original art collection is. Name as many pieces as you want.
So I have. Let me see if I can find the cover. I have pieces that are given to me emotional. They have emotional responses from me. So the DC Comics put out, and I might have it upstairs and not here because I have 85 bookshelves in my house. DC put out the comic book art of Darwin Cook. And
I have it. Yes, I love one of my favorite.
And the cover has all the characters, and they're in a bar called Jimmy's.
Yes.
And Darwin told me, he says, I named the bar Jimmy's because I met most of the people I know through you in comics. And since I've known you, it's like, you know, we loved each other. We were best friends.
Yeah.
And so when he passed away, he left that to me. Wow. That cover. So, you know, it has an emotional connection, right?
Absolutely.
So, and it is stunning. And if you notice the cover, every character I worked on for DC is in that cover, by the way. G.I. Zombie's there. Jonah Hex is there. They're all there. He did that on purpose. So that's one of them. I have a lot of them. Like, you know, I mentioned Walt Simonson giving me that. And I got so many. I have a Bernie Wrightson thing that Bernie gave me. And,
that's wonderful.
Yeah. You know, I'm very enthusiastic when I'm with other artists. So I do. Dave Johnson. Oh my God. Dave Johnson has given me the Freedom Fighters cover. He's given me covers he's done for me. Dave is so generous, and he's one of the most brilliant cover artists in the business, I think. He's just a brilliant artist. He could do anything. I wish Dave would just take a year off and paint, because the guy's amazing. But yeah, so I have a lot of, I can go on and on about my favorite pages, because I have like one of my first comics I wrote for Marvel, Deadpool. I have the Paul Chadwick cover I got to ink over Paul.
Oh, that's great. Paul Chadwick, another guy.
Yeah, Paul's amazing. I mean, he's another guy. I'm like, somebody just throw money at him and let him draw comics. Like, just
amen. No, I'm so with you, man. You know, every time when Brubaker and Darwin would put Slam Bradley and Catwoman together, that was just a beautiful love story to me. Yeah. I'm with everybody, Bruce and Selena, sure, but it's like, you know, man, she just had that special place for Slam in her life, and the way and just how lovingly Darwin would draw them together. I just always thought that was just so classically, like, if those were RKO noir characters, that's what they would look like. You know?
That's Darwin really loved he loved his old movies, and he loved his classic crime movies and stuff. So
yeah,
of course it makes sense. It's in his work. It's in his blood. You know.
I'm with you. All right, I'm looking more at some of this other stuff. WKOS 7 on Drink and Draw. You mentioned wiping out an art store of discontinued inking nib. Which one was it?
Okay, it's hang on.
I love this process questions. Good.
Where are those nibs? I put them somewhere safe, which means I can't find them. Right? It's actually a steel nib. They don't make them anymore.
Wow. So they'll last because it's steel, right?
It's called an R. Estabrook pen nib. Now the box is going to give you every clue on why it's old, right? It's really old.
Okay.
Okay. They're steel pen nibs, and this is what they look like. They're I'm going to see if you can. I'm going to do it right here.
Yeah.
So they're solid steel. So you would put them on here you go.
Yeah, do the demo.
You would get one of these old-fashioned pens.
Sure.
They sell these, and you'd put it on the top like that. You put it in like that. I could literally take this and throw it like a dart.
That's fantastic.
In a dartboard, and this thing won't break. And then you dip it in ink, and it gives you what we call this fine dead line. It's like the perfect, like Mobius would use this on his stuff. It would go, and I was able to. This store was going out of business, and let's see if you could see inside the box.
Zooming in.
I'll turn the light a little bit here.
Okay.
Let's see. Okay, so there's a lot of them in there. See them?
Great. Yep.
Yeah. So I was able to buy them from the store. He only had one box of it, and the guy said they discontinued them like 20 years ago or something. Jeez. 30 years, maybe 30 years ago. The Estabrook Steel Pen Company, I don't think is any in business. It was established in 1858.
Wow.
So,
wow.
So these are rare, and once in a while an artist will ask me for them, and I'll put them in an envelope and mail it to their house and send them one or two.
That's great, man. No, that's the problem. That's the kind of thing that they're built to last. That's probably why they're not in business anymore.
My thing is, if I give you one, you have to draw a little sketch for me with the pen nib.
Smart.
I just made that up, and I think that's my new rule. Maybe
that's a good rule. Jasper wants to know: do you and Amanda both work traditional, or do you do digital as well?
So I've been coloring Amanda's covers lately, and that's all digital. I've been doing them on Procreate. But she does still most of the time, unless we're traveling. If we're traveling, she'll do a digital cover because we're traveling.
Sure.
But 99% of the time, she does an original black and white piece of art. She scans it. We put it into Procreate, separate the layers, and then we both color it. And then we send it out to the client, to the company. But there is a traditional piece of art all the time. I'm looking for some of her originals. I've been packing them up for OAX.
Sure.
I have them in another, but I have that bowling piece. Remember that one I posted?
Yes.
It's right over here. I didn't put it away yet. And it shouldn't be.
Yeah, that's amazing, Jim. Absolutely. That's fantastic. Wow.
When they printed it, they cut off this guy in the corner. This guy's screaming in the corner.
Sure.
The
Wow.
top in the corner. But
Incredible.
yeah,
man.
I have let me see. What am I looking at here? I think we have
Don't wrench your back.
yeah, oh my God, yeah. I have but we do traditional black and white art. I'm looking for Amanda stuff. Here's some dating myself here. There's a Painkiller Jane that Amanda did years ago for the Comic Book Legal Defense Fund. That's a Joe Kubert page on the other side. So
oh my God. Oh, that's so great. You know, I got to thank you for introducing me to Joe at a C2E2 one Saturday night. And I finally got to really have a conversation with him. And that's because you made it happen. And I thank you for that.
He's one of my heroes. He's definitely Joe and his kids. I love his kids. And, and yes, that bowling piece it's watercolor. So how he did it, he drew it and then drew it in watercolors and then used gouache paint, which is sort of like it's thicker than watercolor, so it could actually cover something, And it probably took him like 2 weeks or 3 weeks to do that. I remember because I bought it in the 90s, like mid 90s, and it was like $1,000, right? And that was like all the money I had. And I bought it from Scott Dunbar when he had his art thing in San Diego. Sure. And I paid him like half at the con and half. And I remember I'm like, I'm paying $1,000 for a pair of lips. What the hell am I doing? But I thought it was so cool, And I was like, since then I've been offered like insane amount of money for it, but not ready to part with it yet. So
I absolutely get it. No, that's incredible. And
it's the only bowling piece I have. It's the only bowling piece I have.
Wow.
I used to have I think a flash cover or something, but I think I sold it years ago when I bought. Here's what people do when you're an artist: you sell things when you need a new car to pay insurance, rent, taxes.
I hear you, man.
You sell look. I look at all those Daredevil pages going to auction that Joe and I did. One just sold for $100 and something $1,000, and me and Joe were like, I think we sold that for $1,200.
Exactly. Oh man. Oh, heartbreaking, man. Jesus Christ.
Well, I think somebody tried to. We're talking about for the sale of resale of artwork, to give the artist 10% back.
That's the only thing about NFTs and the blockchain that is a positive thing.
Yeah.
That there's a way to trace, and that the artist keeps getting paid for it.
Right. But somebody actually brought it up and said, "How would that? How would that? You think people would like it?" And I said, well, I know a lot of artists in their 80s and 90s that Joe Sinnott and these guys watching their artwork go for $100,000. Boy, to throw him 10 grand, he'd probably have a party at his house,
Absolutely, man.
And then 10% is not a lot if you think about it. But I do love that concept wise, and I will say, I won't say who it is, but I sold a piece of artwork for a lot more than I bought it for recently, like in the last couple of years, and I tried to give the artist the percentage of the sale, and he was extremely flattered. He said, no one's ever done that. And he said, but I can't take it. You bought it, blah, blah, blah. So he talked me out of it, but I found out he liked a certain artist. So I bought some artwork and sent him that as a gift. So he couldn't say no. He just got it in his mail,
That's excellent.
Figuring out a way around it. But I would be even if it was 5%, let's be honest, it would be the coolest thing in the world to give some of the older guys back some of the sales,
Jimmy, everyone watching and listening, everything you're saying, if we could vote for you as Lord God of Comics, you'd get our vote in November.
I think we wouldn't need Hero for a lot of people.
Yeah,
if some of the generations after were a little more giving,
I completely agree with you, man. Before I wrap with you, because again, you've been great, and I imagine Amanda and you are like waiting to eat dinner, and I'm keeping.
No, we had dinner before I got on.
Oh, okay, good.
You know what? Today we called it supper because I ate it early.
I had to say, yeah, you got the early bird special. That's all right. You're with the seniors. That's all right. I wonder if you ever had, because I just saw a fantastic Johnny Quest documentary, and I was thinking of Doug Wadley and everything. And I don't know if you have any pieces from him over the years.
I have I think I have a Western illustration by Doug from I want to say like 25 years ago when I got it from him.
That's fantastic.
Yeah.
Oh, man.
Yeah,
No,
and
man,
I have a couple of Alex Toth pages that I bought that they don't have characters on them. They're not like
I understand.
They're just art pages. I look, I'm the guy that bought all the Daredevil pages by John Romita Jr. and Al Williamson that didn't have Daredevil on them because they were $5 and $10 each at the time. So
Sure.
I would buy a bunch and I'd look at the inking and go, oh, that's how Al Williamson does it. I could do that, And then I wouldn't do that very well. And
I think when I turned 50, I found on eBay a Lois and Clark page that Kurt Swan and Tex Blaisdell did.
Right.
And all it has is it has one panel where Superman is on a radar scope, so it's a very crude Superman, but it's a whole scene of Lois and Clark at the Capitol, the U.S. Capitol, and they're talking about Navy bean soup being the official soup of the Capitol's cafeteria. And again, I got it for Kurt, I got it for Tex. So no,
he was one of Amanda's teachers at the Cubit School.
Wow.
Yeah,
Tex was not Kurt, obviously.
No, not Kurt. No, not Kurt. Tex was. Tex
Blaisdell. Yeah, absolutely, man.
Well, also, the Wonder Woman artist. He lives in Miami. I'm forgetting his name. But Amanda had a lot of good teachers. I mean, besides Joe, she had a lot of good. She had Greg Hildebrand, whose birthday is today. Greg turned 85 today. I talked to him for a half hour today.
Oh, that's great.
And Klaus turned. I won't even say what Klaus turned because he probably doesn't want anybody to know. But Klaus's birthday is today too. So we have
that's great.
Klaus and who I love them both. Greg Hildebrand though is like he's 85. He's got the energy of a 25-year-old.
Wonderful.
And he's still painting his ass off. I mean, the guy's he is something to behold, boy. Let me tell you. He is a national treasure.
I absolutely respect that. And Klaus, another guy that's running for like nicest guy in comics.
Well, Klaus is probably one of the most brilliant inkers we've ever had in the business. And I've been a fan of his forever. So much so that recently I bought not too long ago, I bought a Gene Colan drawing of Howard the Duck and Bev. And then I begged Klaus to ink it.
Wow.
So I'm going to get it soon. He said he's going to mail it to me back soon. But he took him a while because he said, I'm not used to working on the originals like this anymore. And I said, and he's like, don't you want it on a separate light box? I said, no. I want you to ink Gene the way you see it because I love him on anybody. But I think on Gene Colan, it looks amazing. Look, we don't, sadly, we don't have, we don't have Tom Palmer anymore.
Yeah.
Because that was Gene's best thinker, I think, right?
100%. Yep.
That sweet man left us way too soon. What a great guy. But Klaus would be my second choice, and then Klaus is still here, so he's number one. But he's one of my favorite inkers. He does something that I can never do, and I admire that. It's like Kevin Nolan and him. To me, are the guys that do magic on people, and
right. Kevin also obviously at OAX. We mentioned it before.
Yeah, Kevin. Kevin and I know each other a long time. I think I bought so much art from him at one point. I was paying for things in his house. It was like it was a good relationship until his artwork went up in price, and I was like, okay, the rest of the world has to have some of this. But I do own his Batman Black and White story.
Oh, that's wonderful! Wow, that's terrific.
I wrote the whole story, and I always tell him, I said, look, anytime you want to borrow this back, I'm not giving it to you, but I'll lend it to you.
You can't see it because, again, I blur my background. But on this side, I got and I've told you this before, I have a Jonah Hex that I bought at a WonderCon from Tony DeZuniga. Right. And on this side of the wall, I've got a Gene Colan blade that he did in the way he would shade with pencils.
Yeah, he does a fully illustrated pencil. And Tony is like, Tony was like a master of. It's almost like he used ink like paint, and Tony, there was no such thing as too much detail. He'd go in there and he'd wriggle around, and all of a sudden it would just start taking form. And Tony and Tina were such sweet people, you know. Tina's still around, you know. She's but Tony, I used to see them both, and it was like a hug fest because he enjoyed my Jonah Hex so much that he did a graphic novel for me.
Yeah,
you know?
absolutely. No, I bought that. I bought that book. Absolutely, man. Good stuff, Jimmy. Truly, I love where this conversation has gone, and I know the chat has as well. All the best, and for people who are lucky enough to be going to OAX in Orlando this weekend at the DoubleTree, right across the street from Universal Park. Absolutely,
it is a great location because at night you can go out and there's 800 restaurants, and I will say there is MegaCon the week after, but this is the one where actually all the artists, a lot of the artists are going to be, you know.
Yeah, the elite. I mean, no disrespect to MegaCon, but a lot of the artists.
Go to MegaCon. Go do both, as I say. Get a room all week and hang out and go to Disney, and then go to do MegaCon right after. There's enough in the world that people can do both. It's okay.
No question. West Coast vendors will see you at OAX.
How would I know him though? Is he going to call himself West Coast?
I'm sure he will. As most of them, Jim, you get the same thing I do, where it's like, "Hi, how you doing? I'm East Coast Joe." Oh, hey, nice to meet you. I know who you are.
Right.
So
I'm an idiot because when I bought my Xbox 3 and 4, whatever, when I signed up, I didn't know you should use a handle or something. So I just put Jimmy Palmiotti. Well, when I play the group games where it's like a war game or something, there's always a guy that comes on my own team that shoots me in the head, and then they start yelling, "I just killed Jimmy Palmiotti." And I'm like, you know, I got to just play I just got to stay. I either got to change my name on the gameplay or just play. I don't want to say play with myself. That's like a different term altogether. but I should just be, you know, using the game for, you know. Anyway, I had a good year where people just kept killing me and claiming that they killed me in this video game.
I know.
And I'm like, I'm not famous. What the hell? Why are they doing?
I know Bandits and Fraction used to be part of a group that would get together and they would talk story while they were playing the game. I don't know if you were ever part of that group.
No.
Okay.
No. I probably wouldn't do that because I feel like, you know, it's like I'd probably drive people crazy, especially the games I played are all like war games.
Well, so they did too.
Yeah. So you don't ramble on and on.
That's true.
You kind of telling the guy, listen, you go right, I'm going to go left, and we'll see if we can get this guy. And then I'll eventually have somebody go, "Oh, you're Jimmy Plum. Yeah, you wrote this video game." I'm like, "Yeah, I did." And they're like, "Oh, man, but you didn't write this one." I'm like, "Nope." And they go, "Boom," you know, and I'm like, ah.
Any streaming recommends before we wrap up of shows you're watching?
Yeah, I would say run while it's in the theater to see Poor Things. Okay, I can't recommend that movie enough. It takes you to another world. It is very adult. It is very adult.
That's Emma Stone, right?
Yeah, Emma Stone. There is a lot of nudity in this movie, so I'm just
giving
you. I'm giving you a heads up. It's not for the little kids. Okay.
Fair enough. Okay.
I would go see that. I would see the new season of Fargo with John Hamm, and that. I would say if you're gonna watch Reacher season 2, take half of your brain out and put it somewhere else and just watch it for what it is because it's ridiculous and not very well written.
That's what I'm hearing.
The character's fun.
That's cool.
You know, and then I think that's
are you
and Blue Eye Samurai. If you're not watching that,
Franco from Martin Franco has been after me to watch that for months now.
John, get off this silly thing you're doing and go watch Blue Eye Samurai.
Yes, sir.
Because you're going to watch it and you're going to realize that it's something you've never seen before. And you're going to sit there and you go, okay, I know it's animated. I know it's this. I know it's that. But, oh, my God, like the storytelling is amazing on it.
That's great.
And you will be, you know, and again, I see West Coast Air saying Fargo. The new season of Fargo has Jennifer Jason Leigh. It has John Hamm. It's so evil good. It is, and it ends perfectly. It's like I felt like this was like it was just one of the best things I've seen in a long time. And as you know, Fargo, you can watch it out of season because each season is its own story.
Yes,
So
absolutely. I don't know if you, Jim, I'm an Apollo kid. So For All Mankind on Apple blows my mind every time a new season comes out.
I have not seen it yet because I stopped Apple because I watched everything on it. So I stopped it. I'm going to wait a couple more months and then I do it again. That's how I do it. That's how I do with these things. I'll watch everything on them. Like Hulu right now has a lot of stuff I haven't seen. So I'm spending a lot of time on Hulu.
If you have Disney Plus, they're putting a lot of Hulu on Disney Plus because I watched the Abbey Road documentary.
That was nice.
Oh my God, great archival footage. Good Lord, so amazing. But I find
there's less to watch on Disney and more to watch on Hulu.
And I think that's interesting. I think because again, the streamers, they spend so much money creating these platforms. I wonder where some of these things are going to go. And I have a feeling that eventually Hulu might go by the wayside and they'll move everything to Disney Plus.
Maybe. I just would hate if they. I think Hulu chooses a lot of interesting shows and movies. Oh yeah. And there's a couple of like Fargo is on Hulu, right? So it's like so I've been watching a lot of this stuff there, and Murders in the Building is on Hulu, right?
Right, but also now on Disney Plus.
Right. Oh, it is. Oh, okay.
They're on Disney Plus, yeah.
But I always worry about Disney because I always think they're going to cut out stuff. They're going to
adult stuff. Yeah. No. I hear you, man. Absolutely.
Yeah. And I will be the first guy at the new adult Disney park if they make one. I'll be the first guy. I would like to design that. I would like to design it and pick out some of the rides. But I would be the first guy. But it is, it's that might not happen in our lifetime, John. That might not happen.
Again, this is why I love your comics, Jim, and I miss Sexy Mondays. I'll leave it at that for people who remember. And I get it. It's okay. But it's I share your appreciation for the platform.
Well, I hope anybody who's in the Orlando area this weekend comes and sees us.
Yeah.
There's still tickets available. I think there's a little bit of tickets left. This is the first all comic book art show in the States. I think anybody who even wants to start in it, it's a great place to start. Because there's going to be so much art there that they're going to have to sell some stuff cheap.
And I was going to say, I know for a fact that there are affordable pieces that everyone is presenting as well.
Plus the auction, there's stuff that's going to be really cheap. I mean, all you got to do is put your hand up and, it'll be fun.
100%. Yeah. No, thanks, Jimmy, as always.
Yeah, good talking to you, John.
Truly, likewise. And when the next Kickstarter campaign, I'm happy to help you promote.
Yeah, it will be the middle of February, so we'll go around. We'll go around to that, and we'll rejoin that. And thank you to everybody. Elaine, I see thank you everybody that stopped in and say hi. That's really sweet. We had some pros. We still have a couple of pros on there, and the fans. Look, I love you. I love you guys. You love what I love, so we can all hang out, and that's what I say. It's like the hell with politics. Let's talk about comics.
Oh, absolutely, man. That's why I knew we'd have a fun conversation. So you didn't disappoint, Jim. I thank you. Thank you everybody for watching and listening. And until next time, stay safe, stay happy, stay healthy.